think you're doing? I'm playing my game. Get out of the way! Nuh-uh. You can't avoid it. You have to finish this. No way, me. I'm sick of the summer of Seagal. I'm sick of god-modded characters with no personality, and I'm sick of that damn announcement! What, do you mean, the summer of Steven? Volume slider catch you off guard? Oh yeah, it says a touchscreen. Actually, come to think of it, this is the last week of it anyway, and I've clearly already gone insane, so I may as well just finish the summer of Steven Seagal! As we learned last week, shortly before James had me arrested, Under Siege, while not a flawless film, did well enough and received more than enough praise to warrant a sequel. A sequel that, truth be told, Seagal himself didn't even want to do. He bargained that if he was going to be in Under Siege 2, they had to let him direct On Deadly Ground. Fuck. The fact that said abomination does exist and was directed by Seagal shows quite clearly how little the people in charge of these films are willing to negotiate with the man, even when his ideas are so obviously terrible. But on the plus side, I did actually enjoy Under Siege. For all of the actors in it who weren't Seagal and died, so they aren't in Under Siege 2. Well, let's take a look at Under Siege 2, Dark Territory, and finish this goddamn summer of Seagal once and for all. The film opens up to the space shuttle taking off, an impressive, highly technical feat of precision and power, plus relatively cheap stock footage to boot. For as soon as it reaches orbit and needs to do something specifically scripted for this movie, it's amazing just how low quality the visual effects can go, while you watch this 6-inch model deposit a frighteningly low quality CGI satellite as its payload. This brings us to NASA's base of operations, where we see a few faces from the first film did return, such as Nick Mancuso as Tom Breaker. In the first movie, he was the man responsible for Tommy Lee Jones's character, who went rogue. He also had a secret conversation about blaming Seagal for everything, and he never faced punishment. Don't worry though, in this movie he is responsible for all of the people who do all of the bad things. And he has a secret conversation about saving his own ass, and he never faces punishment. Well, at least the writing's consistent. They show off their new satellite combines two of the best things about the internet: Google Maps and porn. Thus, this operation is a resounding success.
It's just too bad Dane wasn't here today, you know?
Travis Dane was a nut. The man drove his car into a lake. He was crazy.
They found the body yet?
No, just the car.
But the writing isn't so consistent that we see him walking around as soon as the camera changes. Oh yeah, he's alive. Am I really spoiling anything by saying that? Why else would they spend so long talking about this character that we've never seen before as definitely dead, despite their complete lack of evidence? Enough of this, though. It's time to introduce the star. Just get through this, Decker, and you never have to see him again. Okay. They establish, in case we forgot, he's a chef, as we see in his ability to walk through a restaurant yet not cook a damn thing, as he's got to catch a train to California to pay respects to his brother's grave, and leaves his partner in charge. He had a brother in the Navy. He died. Somehow. And he won't fly because his parents were just killed in a plane crash. Strangely, it seems that Seagal powers don't extend to family members. Now he has to meet up with his niece, the only other family member still breathing, but uh-oh, he hasn't seen her in 5 years and doesn't recognize her. How zany.
Gotten big, huh?
Well, what can happen in 5 years?
This introduces us to Sara Rybak, played by Katherine Heigl. Also, she does realize he was in the military, right? It's kind of hard to come by for Christmas when desertion is punishable by death. And now we get our silly scene of Seagal awkwardly giving his niece a teddy bear when no girl in her late teens still likes teddy bears. What? I'm not a girl. We are also introduced to the porter, Bobby Zacks, played by a young Morris Chestnut. At first glance you'd think he's a one-off joke character, but as he follows Sarah around, despite the joke becoming well past stale at this point, it's kind of obvious that he's going to be involved in most of the main events. Still, despite that, at least he's a better actor than Seagal.
So now, what compartment did you say you were in? My compartment.
Now, of course, he won't be having any of that. Do we really need obvious bad guy there? Can I have one hijacking movie where the hijacking is actually a surprise? It's kind of hard to find a real-world example where they were successful despite everyone knowing what they were up to. We also find that the two satellite password enterers... Is that a word? What the fuck else am I supposed to call them? Anyway, they boarded the train too! Not because they actually intend to go anywhere. No, it's simply because a first-class compartment in a transcontinental journey is far cheaper than a hotel room for their secret workplace relationship. And it clearly leaves no trace of their rendezvous. Not like that easily tracked cache at a random Holiday Inn or something. Similarly, I can see how it's incredibly easy for about 6 guys to infiltrate an army base, especially when the fence password seems to actually remove the entire fence surrounding the compound, and there are only 4 guys there, none of which are armed, allowing them to easily steal 2 helicopters. God damn, Just Cause 2 made it look a hell of a lot harder than that. Let's not forget the real important plot, though. Sarah thinks her uncle's a jerk.
Let's talk about why you and my dad stopped talking.
Well, he is dead. Kinda gets in the way.
You know, he didn't get the medals in the service by being a choir boy.
I don't want you talking about my father that way.
Okay, he was a pussy, and I have fond memories of giving him swirlies while our parents were at work. Thus establishing that they will be bitter until he saves her life in Act 3, and then she'll...
Let's just be friends.
Okay.
Hey.
Oh. Never mind. So Seagal plans to make amends for this friendship by showing us all he clearly has no idea how to use a whisk. In the first one, they didn't concentrate on it too much, and you could say that it looked like the man could cook. In this one, however...
15 minutes on high. The rest is up to God. That's right.
There is no question he hasn't got a clue what the fuck he is doing. As per usual with Seagal pacing in movies, the bad guys have no problem in any sense of the word getting the train to stop and taking out the 2 or so people in their way, showing off why they needed the helicopters as they load up the locomotive with goons and equipment. Hey, quick question. Why did you even need obvious bad guy at the station earlier? Couldn't he have just come along in any of your other 6 vehicles later without risking being caught? Seagal naturally is the only one who actually fights back, and by the looks of it, these are still the extra incompetent goons, so it shouldn't be too hard to stop this hijacking. But that would make it far too short for an action movie, so he hides and lets everyone else get shot to death. Not the most eloquent review of the song, but he gets to the point. Oh, but Seagal was hiding in the freezer! Just like Under Siege 1. Good. Now that they've confirmed all the important plot points are just copy and paste from the first script, I don't have to pay attention at all for the rest of the movie. Next we get to meet our villain for this movie, Bogosian, playing the role of Travis Dane.
They said you were dead.
Oh, come on, if you didn't see that coming after they didn't recover his body, I honestly can't help you. Honestly, though, Eric doesn't do too bad of a job. No, he's nowhere near as good as Tommy Lee Jones, but he's not too bad at portraying the insane genius. He's an entertaining distraction to the poorly acted mess the rest of this movie is.
However, if you try anything stupid, federal regulations require that I kill you.
Of course, you have to remember that this was made in 1995, before this was actually the norm for public transit.
You can argue that point later. Next!
He proceeds to extract the codes from the 2 satellite password enterers by threatening them with a red-hot poker in the eye. Or just upstaging them, as they aren't nearly as good of actors as he is.
Give him the code!
PUI476.
That's it? The fuck, most websites these days require passwords to be at least 8 characters long, combining numbers, capital letters, and lowercase.
Watch this.
Impressive. They never said there was a time limit on entering those passwords, but still impressive. While this is going on, Seagal's stunt double is getting some fresh air, and he sees the password monkeys being disposed of. Frustrated at the obvious dummy, Seagal, or are you mad because you didn't get to kill her? Dane kicks off Act 2 right on time at 30 minutes by altering the orbit of Grazer 1, causing ATAC to lose contact, but fortunately not affecting his reception in the slightest. Does that count as the first screamer? Though I can't blame him, as now we gotta watch Seagal for a few minutes, who tells him to search the bags for a while looking for weapons because people always hide grenades and rifles in their suitcases. But while this is going on, Dane shows off the true power of the satellite, which is a stealth weapon of mass destruction, capable of causing earthquakes by using beam things, resulting in a chemical weapons plant in China blowing up. Or the rig from On Deadly Ground. Either way. This was just a proof of concept fire, though, as his true plan is to take out Washington, D.C. So those thousands of lives lost in horrible, painful ways for hundreds of miles? Doesn't matter, it wasn't America. Oh, but we can't call this Under Siege 2 unless we bring in more of the actors from the circle of important characters in the first movie, even though they don't do anything. Back to the things that sort of matter, Seagal unpacks his bag, full of weapons and useful equipment, like an Apple Newton. What the fuck's he supposed to do with that? Terrorists are on the train. No! And yes, the reliability of this Newton is a must for this to work, as he is using it to fax an important message to his restaurant. Because he obviously wouldn't have the number to fax it to anyone in the military. God fucking damn. Well, one part of this movie just became a hell of a lot harder to make jokes about. Seagal kills a wandering enemy, and fortunately for him, the AI isn't particularly well programmed, as the next one to come down in mere seconds doesn't notice any of the blood that the corpse left, or the drag marks on the ground that he could easily follow. This allows him to meet back up with Bobby, and arm him, and yeah, he's going to be wearing that for the rest of the movie. Just like the last movie, the bad guy contacts all the important people in the military almost immediately, despite not having any valid reason to do so. I mean, sure, he shows off the army of ghost satellites he's using to hide Grazer 1's position, but come on, he didn't have to call them up to do that.
Oh, I want you to remember something.
Oh, what's that?
I was smarter than all of you before I worked there. I was smarter than all of you while I worked there.
Oh. More inconsequential rambling. Great. The bad guys just can't find their missing member out in blue screen land, but they do finally locate some strawberry jelly, which sets off their alert status just in time for Seagal to be closing in on the lead car. It was shown that he ran atop the train towards the engine earlier. You know, with the help of his stunt double. The grunt helps Seagal kill him, and after another is lightly tapped, they run off the front of the train because obviously the air friction wouldn't possibly be enough to prevent that. This leads to a firefight, as we see the two bad guys in the lead car have somehow multiplied to about 6. But don't worry, despite their bullets clearly penetrating Seagal's cover, they still can't touch him. Oh great, you know at that distance and speed you're going to have to aim ahead of the man to account for the amount of time it will take for the bullet to reach him. Oh, never mind. She shot Seagal. She shot Seagal? Yeah! They confirm the kill because, hey, they found a little strawberry jam and no body. Oh, I know he's still alive. I'm just happy the man got shot. Why wouldn't I be? They also finally figure out what he was doing in the other car. Hey, come to think of it, why didn't he just send an email? Newtons could do that, you know. Let's catch up with Seagal now, who has teleported to the back car despite his injury.
You think this is being shot? This ain't being shot.
Really? So it looked an awful lot like being shot. Kinda looked like this, actually. I mean, I expected you to not even feel it, but do you really need to rub it in our faces? Hacking Seagal's Newton in about 2 seconds, they find out who it belonged to, and Patrick Kilpatrick is more than a little surprised.
Casey fucking Rybak?
Jesus Christ.
Who's Casey fucking Rybak?
More importantly, how is it his exploits are so famous random mercenaries know him by name, yet a person who was working in the military with a lot of the same people he was has no idea who he is? Megamerc realizes their opponent is imbued with Seagal powers, and therefore can easily survive both sniper fire and being run over by a train.
Now, want every available man to resume a full train search, inside and out, car by car, including all AC ducting, all paneling, the roof, undercarriage, absolutely everything, right now!
I suppose I should mention who that is. Okay, that's Everett McGill playing the role of Marcus Penn. He's a Seagal villain. He has his own brand of Seagal powers. They wouldn't just happen to fail him just in time for the climax, would they? Driving home the fact that he's a cook, because after all that was such an important part of the character in the first movie, Seagal fashions a bomb out of common everyday baking supplies, while the bad guys are looking for whoever boarded the train with him.
What's your name?
Sachs. Bobby Sachs.
Smart. Took the name of someone definitely on the train, but not in the same room.
Zax. No, you're not on the list.
Well, then that's the fault of the station workers, not her. On top of that, she wasn't smart enough to hide the Navy Cross she was wearing, which belonged to her father, not Seagal, so... She pepper sprays them, but that only gives us this incredibly stupid line.
Pepper spray. Sold to civilians. Once you get used to it, just clears the sinuses.
Yeah, if anyone has some spare pepper spray kicking around and they want to copy the man from the movie, don't! Spraying in the mouth can cause the throat to swell up, and of course then you choke to death. Next thing we know, Seagal chucks the bomb at the Ghostbuster cosplayers on this train, resulting in much fire and chaos, including the satellite dish being severely damaged. Don't worry, that doesn't even come close to slowing them down. The real problem is that Bobby stole their targeting data, which of course they don't have any backups of, and after Seagal is knocked off the train, they stop as they are certain he's the one with the CD.
Cliffhanger, hanging from a cliff, and that's why he's called Cliffhanger.
Don't worry though, as they have to get the disc from him and are as dumb as rocks, they lower him a rope and climb well within range, allowing him to kick their asses. They also realize that the porter might have the CD, but actually he doesn't.
Everything fell out. Only thing I got in my pocket, man, is your ass.
That is a nice ass. The anti-Seagal figures out that, hey, the CD was right there the whole time. So they start the train back up, allowing Seagal to show off his ability to break the laws of physics, while the porter hops back on the train for some reason. But finally, the fax reaches the room with every important man in the military, telling them where their satellite was hacked from, and that Casey Rybak is there to save the day. So, in order to save Washington and the surrounding areas, they decide to send in stealth bombers to blow the train up along with everyone on it. Well, that worked out great. Also makes you wonder why they needed the civilians, and couldn't have just kicked them out or killed them. It'd be a lot easier. I mean, all they needed to do was be moving, right? In order to be untraceable. They could have just driven a truck around for a few hours. You could get a boat. You can't keep Seagal down, though, as he speeds in a truck to catch up with the locomotive. Huh. No, wait! He jumped out at the last second because obviously he can run faster than he can drive, easily getting back on the train.
I should have got back on this fucking train.
No shit, what did you plan to do? It's not like you have Seagal powers. He is immediately ambushed by talkative bad guy, who fortunately prefers a good monologue to actually doing his job, allowing Seagal plenty of time to show up and break his neck.
You're traveling through another dimension, a dimension not only of sight and sound, but of mind. That's a signpost up ahead. Your next stop, Dark Territory.
Oh, the title of the movie! That's stupid.
Who says I have a one-track mind?
Oh, fucking A. Act 3 isn't going to be a constant stream of train puns, is it? Never mind that. Grazer 1 certainly has an impressive array of god powers, as it can detect stealth aircraft with next to no difficulty, and this satellite-based earthquake generator is also more than capable of causing airplanes to suddenly explode. Seagal and Morris push forward in the climactic battle now, placing all the hostages' lives in incredible danger, but it's okay, Seagal can do no wrong, and it doesn't matter if he gets shot anyway. Seriously, remember when he got shot earlier?
You think this has been shot? This ain't been shot.
Yep, whatever. Still, a bullet entered his body and caused him to bleed. About 3 drops. And he hasn't acted wounded the entire movie, and his suit isn't even damaged. It's remarkably clean. They detach the passenger cars, which somehow slow to a stop almost immediately, and before long everyone is ready for the final showdown between Seagal and the anti-Seagal.
Go get your throat ripped out. I got 8 million people to kill and $1 billion to pick up.
You know that's only $125 per person, right? He's also strangely into the idea of having a knife fight, despite the fact that just like any other Seagal movie, surprise surprise, his powers of badassitude completely fail him just in time for the final confrontation, leading to yet another long drawn-out climactic battle that isn't exciting in the slightest, as we're all just waiting for Seagal to finish him off as he slowly beats the man to death.
Nobody beats me in the kitchen.
We get it, he's a cook, that's not really an important detail. Now it's time to take out the real bad guy, but oh no, Grazer 1 is already set to take out Washington in less than a minute!
Never thought of that.
Yeah, in reality, that wouldn't work. In a Seagal movie, however, it does, but the danger's not over yet, as a train is crashing directly into another train carrying 800,000 gallons of gasoline. Worse still are the special effects at work here. Seriously, they were crap throughout most of the film, but this is just a constant stream of horrible computer graphics techniques from a time when computer graphics in movies didn't look that great to begin with, thus giving us our happy ending, with Dane falling to his death, Seagal saving the girl, and the bigwigs having a party! Oh, and his brother's still dead. You know, just to cheer you up. And he finally wears that damn white uniform! Of course, by this point, Seagal was starting to get a bit fat, and white isn't exactly the most slimming color. Well, that was Under Siege 2, Dark Territory, and I'm pretty sure there have been hundreds of other critics who have used the train wreck analogy. I guess if Under Siege was Seagal finding his stride, then Under Siege 2 is his fall from grace. Well, what little grace he had in the early 90s. At its heart, it's not much worse plot-wise than the first, and the pacing is just about the same, but there are some severe problems in this one that the original managed to avoid. Front and center, it's Seagal. He effectively plays the role just as well between the two movies, but the first one had a much better supporting cast to keep you entertained. Here, it's almost entirely on Seagal to carry the movie. Not much of a surprise at this point, he doesn't do a very good job with that. The second problem is that, honestly, they somehow managed to fuck up the character of Sara Rybak in the script on top of it. I don't need to point any further than the extremely overt use of the fact that he's a cook. Yes, he was the cook in the last movie, but in this it's just shoved down your throat from the get-go, so much so that it's hard to tell if he learned how to make that bomb from a SEAL training or culinary school. This is a classic example of taking a minor character trait and exaggerating it to the point where it changes the character itself. Aside from that, I'd also say that the plot is somewhat nonsensical. Bad guy being crazy and wanting to kill millions of people for a tiny profit? I'll accept that. Hijacking a train just because it moves? Needing the password enterers because he can't hack the system he's hacking into that he designed? The joy that Washington was saved while thousands dead in China is a minor, quickly forgotten detail? The problems abound. It's made worse by the visual effects that, while ambitious for its time, certainly haven't aged well. But like most things, there are parts that you can enjoy. Mostly the bad guys, again. Eric Bogosian can't top the first movie's villain performances, but he does a decent job, and it's made better by the fact that his personality is not simply cut and paste from Under Siege 1. Morris Chestnut is also an entertaining distraction, despite just how shallow his character was written. The action is normal Seagal fare. Things blow up, Seagal walks in and kills everybody, roll credits. It's got its moments, but to me it clearly falls into the so bad it's good category, coming in at 2 spritz of pepper-flavored Banaka out of 5. It's not as bad as some 2 out of 5 films, but it's still clearly below average. It's like a train wreck, you just can't look away. Oh damn it, I couldn't get past this review without making that analogy, could I? Oh well. Thank you all for watching, I've been Shado, and remember, the summer of Steven Seagal is now over. No more Seagal. No more Seagal. No more Seagal. No more Seagal! No more Seagal! No more Seagal!
Oh, brother, can you hear that sound? Out on the wind, hello, Lord. It's a lonesome whistle as the steel wheels pound. I know your train is gone. Oh, brother, can really cry now that I'm on my own, watching the sun sinking in the sky after the train has gone. It was you, my brother, who picked me up when
That's why they call it space, because, well, there's a lot of it.
Thank you very much. Just be quiet, please.